Corruption is inevitably included in the top of the phenomena that pose global evil. It undermines democratic principles of human rights and economic growth. Here in Uzbekistan, the government also needs a systematic approach against this global threat. Therefore, two important documents were signed by the country's leader. The purpose behind adoption is to create an environment of intolerant attitude towards corruption in society. Sitora Khalikwa with the further details.
Uzbekistan, striving for high goals in all spheres, is taking completely different, more effective measures to combat corruption. In recent years, an effective system based on advanced international standards has been consistently implemented in this regard. As a result, by ensuring the openness and transparency of the activities of state bodies and organizations, establishing accountability of officials to the population, the necessary conditions have been created for public control in public administration. For the first time, the Anti-Corruption Agency was created. In government bodies and large business organizations, the activities of internal anti-corruption control units are being established. The process is also underpinned by increased digitalization. However, there is still work to be done. In particular, corruption remains in the use of budgetary funds, public procurement, capital construction, obtaining licenses and permits, issuing bank loans, hiring, and other areas. This means that it is necessary to further strengthen the work in this direction. This is what the presidential decree on measures to create an environment of intolerance towards corruption, a radical reduction of corruption factors in state and public administration, as well as broad public involvement in this process, and the resolution of the President of Uzbekistan on additional measures to effectively organize activities to combat corruption.
Документы имеют очень важное стратегическое и концептуальное значение.
The document has a very important strategic and conceptual significance, defines a new level of anti-corruption, and thus indicates that Uzbekistan is declaring a merciless fight against corruption. In addition, the document is aimed at increasing responsibility in this direction. Throughout the country, in all state bodies, internal anti-corruption services will be formed, which will deal with both prevention and identification of individual cases of a corruption-related nature. The State Anti-Corruption Program for 2021-2022 is being approved, which consists of 65 events. Its implementation will be monitored by the National Council for Countering Corruption.
Anti-corruption measures and reforms in Uzbekistan during the last 4 years, in my capacity as the UNDP's Global Anti-Corruption Advisor, and more recently is the UNDP advisor to the newly established Anti-Corruption Agency of Uzbekistan. I have seen significant progress on anti-corruption reforms in Uzbekistan. UNDP is proud to provide policy and program support to the government of Uzbekistan.
Starting from next year, on the basis of the principle of integrity vaccine, it is planned to introduce a system of training civil servants on a permanent basis in special training courses on anti-corruption, conflict of interest, and ethical rules. A well-thought-out set of measures, or rather its effective implementation, will significantly strengthen the fight against corruption, drastically reduce its manifestations in the state and public administration, expand public participation in this process, and increase Uzbekistan's international ratings in this direction.
There is one more presidential decree on measures to further support the talented youth admitted to higher educational institutions of the Republic with top scores. The document forms a base for a presidential grant being introduced in this regard. My colleague reveals the details.
As time passes, increasing number of young people come to the point when they realize the need to get higher education in order to achieve ambitious goals and conquer new heights. Presidential decree on measures to further support the gifted youth admitted to higher educational institutions of the Republic provides the introduction of a grant from the President of Uzbekistan from 2021-2022 academic years, which is awarded to 200 applicants who have scored the highest scores in entrance exams. So these 200 applicants with the highest scores in the Republic will be considered as potential ones for the President grant in the context of the direction of education, regardless of the language of instruction. Choosing the best among the most hardworking ones is a difficult and not always straightforward process. Most importantly, a fair and transparent distribution of quotas is provided. For example, with the applicant who took the last place in the 200 rating, all other students with the same points also can become potential owners of the presidential grant. grant. It is very important that those categories of applicants who have preferential points in their arsenal will not be able to apply them in the distribution scheme for a presidential grant. A decisive role in compiling the list of potential holders of the president's grants will be played by State Commission for Admission to Study at Educational Institutions of the Republic. Once again, we have to note that all applicants will be trained on the basis of a state grant. So how the holders of the presidential scholarship will be determined?
During this semester, each student must publish at least 2 scientific publications. He must also participate in international competitions. Besides all, he has to speak foreign languages. These are the defining qualities that will be taken into account when issuing the presidential grant.
A purposeful and forward-looking young man has a new incentive for improvement, especially since experts say that everything is decided in the first academic year. So those of the 200 best who study on the basis of a state grant and who have an excellent marks in the first year will receive a presidential scholarship from the second year. At the same time, the usual scholarship is no longer assigned to them. The payment of the presidential scholarship will be determined each time at the end of the semester, when the applicant will have to study perfectly in all areas.
Based on the results of the entire period of study, all students who studied excellently during the academic year have the opportunity to enter a magistracy on a state grant and continue their activities in the basic doctoral studies.
By September 1st, 2021, the Ministry of Higher and Secondary Special Education, the Agency for Youth Affairs and the Ministry of Justice are tasked to jointly develop an order for determining grant holders, thus submit the procedure to the government for consideration, which provides for the issuance of the required characteristics by the head of universities, cumulatively evaluating both knowledge and personal qualities of the student. This will be another stimulating factor for young Uzbeks in terms of good study, all-round development and search for their proper place in society.